How's it going? We're on day 99. We're on day 99. Oh my gosh. We're in First Kings still, and we're on chapter 17 through 19, and then we're going to Psalms 99, and we'll wrap it up for the day. And tomorrow we have a mini celebration in store. Not really, I'm gonna wing it, but I'm gonna be really excited about it because I don't think I've ever done anything for 100 consecutive days. So yeah, okay. I'll just hop in. Let me talk about the links that are in the description of this video real quick. I just thought that it was very apt to check out what idolatry and idols and all that meant, so I did some background research to figure out what it truly meant to lift something up as an idol, to hold something in the position of an idol. Why is this so unclear? Yeah, there we go. To hold something in the position of an idol, and different types of modern idolatry that might be taking place in this day and age. So it just felt accurate because we were reading all of the Kings stuff, you know, and it was talking about things that kings have done in the past to anger the Lord, sinning themselves and leading all of Israel to sin, and what that actually means when you try to visualize it, right? Because oftentimes we are incapable of visualizing situations like that in their detail. But basically, it's to craft an image and to lift it up as a god, is to offer it prayer, offer it sacrifices, burn incense to it, is to start like bowing your knee to it, is to start depending on it. It's your visual, your call to when you're worried. It's the first thing you're worried, you're wondering if that's the power that's gonna pull you out of your troubles. It's the thing that you lean on before you lean on anything else. And that is considered an idol. It's the thing you expect to bring you comfort when you're in discomfort. It's the thing you expect to ease your troubles and your worries. It's the place you go to run to and hide, aka escapism, and when life seems a bit too much. Now, I'm not saying that escapism isn't like, you know, entertainment and all that. Is all of it has its place, but when it's the first thing you lean to, then you usually know when you're in that state that there's something else going on mentally that you're running away from. So all of that is in the description, or at least the videos. That was my interpretation on said videos. Go ahead, check it out, see if that gives you clarity when you're reading through and they're talking about idols, idolatry, and placing God, following other gods and placing God second or third on the totem pole. I know one of the biggest modern day idols right now is financial struggles and financial dependencies, because we definitely will run into trouble, and the first thing we think about was, well, do I have enough money to handle it? You know, we try to find comfort in our checking account, and some of us can't do that. So, but we still, because of that, like it's the thing that occupies our mind the most. Yesterday was just a summary of a bunch of kings, so I can't say I remember the name of all of them. I do remember the name of some of them, but we'll see where this picks up today at the top of 1 Kings 17. Elijah, fed by ravens. Now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, the God I serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word. Then the Lord said to Elijah, go to the east and hide by Kerith Brook, near where it enters the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food. So Elijah did as the Lord told him and camped beside Kerith Brook, east of the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat each morning and evening, and he drank from the brook until after a while the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. Not go eat by the ravens, for I have commanded them to feed you. That's an amazing verse. Like, oh man. Okay. The widow of Zarephath. Then the Lord said to Elijah, go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Shiloh. I have instructed a widow there to feed you. So when he went to Zarephath. So he went to Zarephath. As he arrived at the gates of the village, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, would you please bring me a little water in a cup? As she was going to get it, he called to her, bring me a bite of bread too. But she said, I swear by the Lord your God that I don't have a single piece of bread in the house, and I have only a handful of flour left in the jar, and a little cooking oil in the bottom of the jug. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal, and my son and I will die. Oh, that's rough. But Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go ahead and do just what you said, but make a little bread for me first. Then use what's left to prepare a meal for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time that the Lord sends rain and the crops grow again. So she did as Elijah said, and she and Elijah and her family continued to eat for many days. There was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Sometime later, the woman's son became sick. He grew worse and worse, and finally he died. Then she said to Elijah, O man of God, what have you done to me? Have you come here to point out my sins and kill my son? But Elijah replied, give me your son. And he took the child's body from her arms, carried him up the stairs to the room where he was staying, and laid the body on his bed. Then Elijah cried out to the Lord, O Lord my God, why have you brought tragedy to this widow who has opened her home to me, causing her son to die? And he stretched himself out over the child 3 times and cried out to the Lord, O Lord my God, please let this child's life return to him. The Lord heard Elijah's prayer, and the life of the child returned, and he revived. Then Elijah brought him down from the upper room and gave him to his mother. Look, he said, your son is alive. Then the widow told Elijah, now I know for sure that you are a man of God, and that the Lord truly speaks through you. Hold! There's just too many good things in here to count. Hold on. So first, Elijah receives a message from the Lord. Message is delivered. Then Elijah is told to go to the brook near the Kerith Brook, near the where the Jordan River is, and he's like, listen, go there, drink from the brook, and eat what the ravens bring you, for I've commanded them to bring you food. So Elijah, for an unbeknownst period of time, I'm assuming a hefty period of time, is sustaining only on the water of this brook and what the ravens bring him as food. And then the brook dries up because there's been no rainfall in all of the land. I'm assuming that it's a hefty period of time because a brook takes a while to dry up, even though, there's a drought. It takes a while for that to happen. So then he moves, right? And he's told he receives yet another message from the Lord after this. And he says, go live in the village of Zephyrath, and I have instructed a widow there to feed you. So now Elijah's sustenance is to come from, I don't understand why. Is this just the lighting? Is that why I look gray? I'm just gonna. Is that better? That's totally better. Okay. Right, so he's told to go, and then he will sustain off of what the widow there has for him. Now, he goes through this, he finds a widow right away, or I assume right off the bat. Yeah, no, right away, because as he entered the gate, he saw a widow gathering sticks. I'm assuming he identified the widow by her garb, and he finds her there gathering supplies. And he asks for a cup of water, and she's about to oblige. He asks for a piece of bread too, and then she turns around and she says, I swear by the Lord God that I don't have a single piece of bread. She's like, listen, I don't got no bread in this house. I barely got anything left to make a meal for me and my son. So this wood that I'm gathering is to make that last meal for us, and then we're gonna die because we have no provisions. So this is legit our last supper. But then he's like, don't be afraid. Right? Go ahead, make the meal as you were preparing to do, but before you do that, so before you put the needs of you and your starving son ahead of mine, don't. While you are in your hunger and your son is hungry and you're waiting because this is a drought, of severe famine and drought that we're in, right? So while that's going on, just promise that as you make your meal, you prepare me some bread too. Even though it's the last bit of flour you have and the last bit of olive oil that's stuck at the bottom, that's left at the bottom of your cooking, your oil jug. You know it's the last of what you have. Prepare a meal for me, the stranger you do not know, before you feed yourself and your starving son. Before all that, feed me. Make me bread, feed me with what you have left. Right? So he's telling this woman to feed him first. Go ahead, prepare what you're gonna do. Feed me first, though. But feed me first, though, is I'm down to my last. Like, this is all I got. If I feed you first, there's nothing for us. So, what are you saying to me? And then he goes, for this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when the Lord sends rain and the crops grow again. So she did as Elijah said. And she and Elijah, let's just stop at that comma. So she did as Elijah said. Ask me now, like, is that not a faith move? Like, this random man walked up to you, said, give me water and bread. And you're like, it's my last meal. This is all I got. I can't, how? And he goes, don't worry. Feed me first, because the Lord says there will always be enough olive oil and flour left in your containers. And she does as he says. She does as he says. She doesn't worry about being swindled. She just does as she says. She puts her life, her well-being, her son's well-being on the line to make Elijah his meal first. That's me. I don't care. Someone walk up to you while you're eating your last meal. You have no idea where your next meal is coming from. You're prepared to die because this is your last meal. Someone walks up to you and like, feed me first. And the Lord will make sure that you have flour and oil in your containers. And you're like, but how though? Like, what? So you're just gonna think, oh, okay, and give him the last of everything you have first? That right there, 1 Kings, what chapter is this? 17? 1 Kings 17, verse 15. So she did as Elijah said. And then if we continue, Elijah, and her family continued to eat for many days. There was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. So yeah, the promise was met, the promise was upheld, the promise was kept. But had she turned around and said, no, I will not do this, all three of them would be dead. All of them would be dead. That's it. Because God would have been faithful to that promise of replenishing the flour and olive oil in his mysterious way. And Elijah wouldn't have anywhere to eat. Well, I mean, Elijah probably would have survived because the Lord was with him, clearly. But the widow and the son definitely would have died. This is the line that, like, clearly, like, for me, it's the line that argues against, well, you gotta put yourself first sometimes. That's true. There's definitely, like, certain people you can't go above and beyond for. No, that's not what I want to say either. Well, no, I do think it's that's gray territory. That's gray area. But this is definitely a woman who did not put herself first and was able to show extreme generosity and faith. Okay, so now they get past the food situation. Now, you know, she takes the sleep of faith. She feeds Elijah first. She does what it said. And then now we're going for many days where the last of her flour and the last of her olive oil is just replenishing over and over. Like, you know, you ever see those, like, TV shows, the TV series where, like, magic is in play and somehow whatever they eat keeps, like, popping back up again and it's, like, restored. And, like, the cup is refilled, the container is refilled, the pizza is magically whole again, you know, like, it just, that's what this is giving. So the flour is there, the olive oil is there. Mind you, he didn't magically poof and go, I will give you what you don't, like, I'll give you, he didn't give them the bread, he didn't give them the meat, he didn't give them, you know, whatever. I don't know if the raven was still sending food. He didn't say that. He said, I will use whatever you have left, and then there will always be enough of it. There will always be enough flour and olive oil. That's what she had already. But it didn't go out. There was always some left. But this is God who could provide. He could have easily sent her new stuff. But he used what she had and just kept her refilling what she had on deck. Okay, so now we got through verse 16, right? All of that happens. This food goes for many days, and all of that's being refilled. Magical jars are in the house, you know, and she's able to feed the three of them off of the scrap of what she has left, because it's, well, no longer scrap, but it's being replenished. And then it goes, and this woman fell sick, and she cries out to Elijah. She says, oh man of God, what have you done to me? Have you come out here to point out my sins and kill my son? So she's not rebuking the Lord here. I did what you said and you still took my son from me. How dare you? Da da da, blah blah blah. She goes, what have you done to me? Like, did you really come out here to point out my sins and kill my son? Is that your purpose? Which is a weird question, because you knew your son. You were like already, you were prepared. You were preparing. Even though you don't want that to happen. Like, no mother wants to lose her own life and her son's life with in famine. Like, knowing it's coming. I'm sure that was a very, like, heavy burden as she's carrying that. Like, as she's collecting those rocks. Like, I'm sure in that state of mind. Oh my God, this is the last we have to eat. Like, I don't know how we're going to survive this famine. I don't know how we're going to get through this. Oh, worry after worry. Worry after worry while she's picking these sticks to set this oven ablaze to cook a meal, right? The last meal she knows she can provide for herself and her son. Sorry, I didn't think this verse, this chapter is. So she goes and she turns to him and she says, did you come here to point out my sins, causing point out my sins and kill my son? Then Elijah replies to her, he himself's not worried. He says, give me your son. And he took the body upstairs in his arms, carried him upstairs and whatever. He didn't turn around and go, well, it says the Lord, you know, da da da. He didn't feel resigned to the situation until he went up with the son and prayed over the tragedy that took place. And he prays this, he cries out, and he says, oh Lord, my God, why have you brought tragedy to this widow who has opened her home to me, causing her son to die? And he's asking this, pleading, and then he stretched himself over the child 3 times and cried out to the Lord, oh Lord my God, please let this child's life return to him. The Lord heard Elijah's prayer, and the life of the child returned, and he revived. Then Elijah brought him down from the upper room and gave him to his mother. Look, your son is alive. So they brought the son back to life. Well, through Elijah's prayer, through Elijah's faithfulness and prayer, he brought this widow's son back to life. Why are there no names for these characters? Oh, that's so sad. Okay. I really want them. I really want them to have names. Then the woman told Elijah, now I know for sure that you are a man of God and that the Lord truly speaks through you. Now I know for sure. Not the fact that, we've been in this house and eating for many days off the bare minimum of flour and olive oil that I had weeks ago, but you brought my son back to life, so now I know for sure that you are a man of God. Now I know for sure. So all this time, she's sitting there and she's making these moves of faith. Because just because you have a little faith doesn't mean you have faith for all of it. Like, it's step-by-step faith. She has step-by-step faith until her son is revived, and she's like, oh, now I know. Now I know the Lord's with you. Now I know that the Lord is speaking through you. Now I see the Lord's power through you. This was so happy. How? You had the raven feed him. But in all that, he's being obedient. Because it's Elijah himself that, like, he could have gotten up from that brook and left, like, or never went to the brook in the first place. Like, no, God, I want to go to the mountain over there and live out my days. He could have been whiny. Who's Elijah? Where does Elijah come from? I'm gonna look it up later. I'm gonna look it up now. A mighty prophet during a turbulent time in Israel's history, the nation had turned away from the Lord to worship Baal. Elijah was sent to show Israel the evil of their ways and encourage them to return to the Lord. Elijah means Jehovah is my God. Okay. So this is a mighty man of God, and he goes and he's speaking, and he's he what is it called? Chastise King Ahab in and let him know that there is gonna be no dew, no rain. Okay. So now we're in 1 Kings 18. The contest of Mount Carmel. Later on, in the 3rd year of the droughts, the Lord said to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to King Ahab. Tell him that I will soon send rain." So Elijah went to appear before Ahab. Meanwhile, the famine had become very severe in Samaria. So Ahab summoned Obadiah, who was in charge of the palace. Obadiah was a devoted follower of the Lord. Once when Jezebel had tried to kill all the Lord's prophets, this is in parentheses, so this is a look back. Okay. He was a devoted follower of the Lord. Once when Jezebel had tried to kill all the Lord's prophets, Obadiah had hidden 100 of them in 2 caves. He put 50 prophets in each cave and supplied them with food and water. Ahab, this is the king? Yeah. Ahab said to Obadiah, "We must check every spring and valley in the land to see if we can find enough grass to save at least some of my horses and mules." You worry about your horses right now? So they divided the land between them. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. As Obadiah was walking along, he suddenly saw Elijah coming toward him. Obadiah recognized him at once and bowed low to the ground before him. "It is really you, my lord Elijah?" he asked. "Is it really you?" "Yes, it is," Elijah replied. "Now go and tell your master Elijah is here." Go tell the king Elijah is here. "Oh, sir," Obadiah protested, "what harm have I done to you that you are sending me to my death at the hands of Ahab?" It's funny that he's not calling him King Ahab here. Okay, at the hands of Ahab. "For I swear by the Lord your God that the king has searched every nation and kingdom on earth from end to end to find you, and each time he was told, 'Elijah isn't here,' King Ahab forced the king of the nation to swear to the truth of his claim. And now you say, 'Go tell your master Elijah is here.' But as soon as I leave you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you away to who knows where. When Ahab comes and cannot find you, he will kill me. Yet I have been a true servant to the Lord all my life. Has no one told you, my Lord, about the time when Jezebel was trying to kill the Lord's prophets? I hid 100 of them in 2 caves and supplied them with food and water. And now you say, go and tell your master Elijah is here? Sir, if I do that, Ahab will certainly kill me. But Elijah said, I swear by the Lord Almighty, in whose presence I stand, that I will present myself to Ahab this very day. So Obadiah went to tell Ahab that Elijah had come, and Ahab went out to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw him, he exclaimed, so it really is you, you troublemaker of Israel. I have made no trouble for Israel, Elijah replied. You and your family are the troublemakers, for you have refused to obey the commands of the Lord and have worshipped the images of Baal instead. Now summon all Israel to join me at Mount Carmel, along with the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who are supported by Jezebel. Who's Jezebel? Am I supposed to know who that? I feel like I haven't read about her yet. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I can. Oh, okay. That's cool. Wait. Can I? Give me a minute, y'all. I just need to do some bookmarking. I just want to... No. Bookmark everything. And then I want the whole thing. This is such a great... What? Magic container? Magic. That's not what I wanted to do. What was that? This whole chapter is crazy, y'all. This whole chapter. Okay, just highlight the whole chapter. Let's just... Are you frozen? Okay, you frozen? Are you frozen? You're not frozen. Okay. verse somewhere in 1 Kings 18, verse 20. Yeah. So Ahab summoned all the people of Israel and the prophets of Mount Carmel. Then Elijah stood in front of them and said, he summoned everyone during a famine. So, like, that was anything. Okay, so he summoned all of these people, and then Elijah stood in front of them and said, how much longer will you waver, hobbling between two options? Hobbling? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him. But the people were completely silent. Then Elijah said to them, I am the only prophet of the Lord who is left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Now bring 2 bulls. The prophets of Baal may choose whichever one they wish and cut it into pieces and lay it on the wood of their altar, but without setting fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood of the altar, but not set fire to it. Then call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by setting fire to the wood is the true God. And all the people agreed. So he's like, at this point, I don't care. Make a choice. You gonna follow God or you gonna follow Baal? Make a choice. And then he's like, if you need help, you want evidence for your decision to be swayed, here's what we're gonna do. You prepare your sacrifice, I'll prepare my sacrifice. Neither of us will light a fire. The only way one of these sacrifices will burn is if God responds. I'll call him my God, you call him Baal. And they're like, all right, cool, bet. So then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, you go first, for there are many of you. Choose one of the bulls and prepare it and call on the name of your God, but do not set fire to the wood. So they prepared one of the bulls and placed it on the altar. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noontime, shouting, "Oh Baal, answer us!" But there was no reply of any kind. Then they danced, hobbling around the altar like they made the altar they made. About noontime, Elijah began mocking them. "You'll have to shout louder," he scoffed, "for surely he is a god. Perhaps he is daydreaming or is relieving himself, or maybe he is away on a trip or is asleep and needs to be wakened." So they shouted louder and followed their normal customs. They cut themselves with knives and swords until the blood gushed out. They raved all afternoon until the time of the evening sacrifice, but still there was no sound, no reply, no response. Then Elijah called to the people, "Come over here." They all crowded around him as he repaired the altar of the Lord that they had torn down. Oh right, well there was a persecution here. I forgot about that. Okay. Repairing the altar of the Lord that had been torn down. He took 12 stones, one to represent each of the tribes of Israel, and he used the stones to rebuild the altar in the name of the Lord. Then he dug a trench around the altar large enough to hold about 3 gallons. He piled wood on the altar, cut the bull into pieces, and laid the pieces on the wood. By himself? That's a lot of work. So he built this fire pit, so to speak. Right? He dug a trench, built up an altar, moved some stone piles large enough to construct the altar, moved 12 of them. He piled wood on the altar, butchered the bull, and then laid it all out. That's a long work. Then he said, fill four large jars with water and pour the water over the offering and the wood. Okay. After they had done this, oh no, he commanded them. He did all of this and then he commanded them to do this. No, not commanded them. He had kind of commanded them. Okay. Come over here. They all crowded around him as he prepared the altar and the water. And then he took the stones and he built the altar and he built the trench. Okay, yeah. So after they had done this, he said, do the same thing again. And when they were finished, he said, now do it a third time. And they did as he said. And the water ran around the altar and even filled the trench. At the usual time for offering the evening sacrifice, Elijah the prophet walked up to the altar and prayed, O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prove today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant. Prove that I have done all this at your command. O Lord, answer me. Answer me so these people know who you are. O Lord, our God. No. Wait. Answer me so that these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have brought them back to yourself. That's all he says. He also wets this whole thing. You just make doubly sure no one's like, hey, look. So then he says, okay, let me reread this because I think it's important. O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prove today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant. Prove that I have done all this at your command. O Lord, answer me. Answer me so these people will know that you, O Lord, are God and that you have brought them back to yourself. Immediately, the fire of the Lord flashed down from heaven and burned up the young bull, the wood, the stones, and the dust. He even licked up all the water in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell face down on the ground and cried out, the Lord, He is God. Yes, the Lord is God. Then Elijah commanded, seize all the prophets of Baal. Don't let a single one escape. So the people seized them all, and Elijah took them down to the Kishon Valley and killed them there. That's some 700 people. Right? That's some 700 people. 450, nope. That's 850 people. Prophets. Dang, could you imagine doing all that? Like you huffing and puffing and dancing and cutting yourself. Bleeding and praying and shouting and asking for your God to show up. And then you die. After watching the real God, the only God, flick his finger and set a fire ablaze. You know that was nothing for him. He was like, he waved a hand. He was, these people. How much more do I need to prove myself? Like, you know he was, how much more do I need to prove myself? So Elijah prays for rain. Then Elijah said to Ahab, go and get something to eat and drink, for I hear a mighty rainstorm coming. So Ahab went to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed the top of Mount Carmel and bowed low to the ground and prayed with his face between his knees. Then he said to his servant, go and Then he said to his servant, "Go and look out toward the sea." The servant went and looked, then returned to Elijah and said, "I don't see anything." 7 times Elijah told him, "Then go and look." Finally, the 7th time, his servant told him, "I saw a little cloud about the size of a man's hand rising from the sea." Then Elijah shouted, "Hurry to Ahab and tell him, 'Climb into your chariot and go back home. If you don't hurry, the rain will stop you.'" And soon the sky was black with clouds. A heavy wind brought a terrific rainstorm, and Ahab left quickly for Israel. Then the Lord gave special strength to Elijah. He tucked his cloak into his belt and ran ahead of Ahab's chariot all the way to the entrance of Jezreel. This man ran. Then the Lord gave special strength to Elijah, and he outran a chariot in a rainstorm all the way to Israel. I don't know how long of a distance is it. You know it's a long distance. I was like, "Here's, have some extra to seal the deal." He's like, "I know I just lit up the wet altar in front of all of these people. I know I just proved my power. I know I just sent rains to end this desert, this what is it, drought and famine. I know I already did that. Go ahead, have the king return home. All is good. Y'all are safe. But here's what I'm going to do for you. Run." He's a funny dude, yo. No, that's not how you spell that word. Alright. That now brings us to Kings 19. First Kings 19. Elijah flees to Sinai. When Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah: "May the gods strike me and even kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you just as you killed them." Who's this Jezebel person? Where did she come from? When did she show up in this story? Okay, so Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died." So he's tired. This man's tired. he's been on the run, essentially, from all these people who's always trying to kill him. He survived on this brook and raven food, and then he survived with the widow, kind of also too in hiding, and then he did all of the acts necessary to kind of, I want to say nudge, but it was bigger than a nudge, Israel back onto the straight and narrow. Ran all the way to what would have been or seems to be his home territory, and then is now currently on the run yet again from Jezebel, who's out after his life. So he's tired. He's just done. He's tired. He's laying down. He's like, I'm done enough. I'm no better than my ancestors, and they're already dead. Like, I'm tired. You can take me. Then he laid down and slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, get up and eat. He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. There he came to a cave where he spent the night. So he has this last meal, hearty meal, I'm assuming, last hearty meal before a 40-day and night fast while traveling through various terrain, to get to Mount Sinai. And then he spent the night sleeping again in the cave. But I already highlighted, so I've been here before. I highlighted, then, this is verse 7. 1 Kings 19, verse 7. It says, then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. I highlighted this, and I highlighted it in green. So, in my state of mind, I'm pretty sure I was thinking, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. So he didn't just say, go to Mount Sinai, you know. He's like, here's what you need. Eat this. And then he ate, he tried to go to bed. He nudged him again. He woke him up the second time. He's like, listen, no, wait, eat some more, drink some more, or else you're not gonna make it through this. And there are plenty of things that we're up against, that we go through, and we're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. I don't think I can get through this. I don't see me getting through this. But we get through it. And clearly, I feel like we always have the provision required to make it through the turmoil, to get to the other side. Like, it's always there somehow. Because provision is the thing that the Lord secures. Before you gotta do anything, the Lord provides you with what you need. It's like in the package, you know, like you sign up, whatever, you sign up with the Lord, you get the total package. You get all of your needs met. You get all of your needs met, and you get the provision to do the extra, to go the extra mile, to get to where you gotta go. And yes, it's not always easy. And it could have said that God could send his raven again. He could have fed and supplied Elijah with all he needed throughout the journey, so that he was eating every day, that he was fed every day, that he was secured every day. No. He said, have this now, because you won't be strong enough to do it later, which means there was no food in this 40. This was a fast. In those 40 days and nights that he traveled to get to the cave, cave on Mount Sinai, the mountain of God, he fasted. He traveled and traveled, and prayed, I'm sure, and made his way. just do the thing? Oh, okay. Let me just copy this thing. I can't even. It won't let me. This thing is really finicky. Okay, so he sleeps at the cave on Mount Sinai, which brings us to the top of verse 10. But the Lord said to him, Elijah, the Lord speaks to Elijah. But the Lord said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? Elijah replied, I have zealously served the Lord God Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you, torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. Go out and stand before me. Wait, how is he the only one left when Obadiah saved 100? Did he save them or just hide them for a while? Did they not get saved? Okay. Well, he's saying now that I'm the only one left. Go out and stand before me on the mountain, the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire there was the sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And the voice said, what are you doing here, Elijah? The Lord passed by in a mighty mountain. Okay. The Lord passed by in all these elements. No. Okay. He replied again, I have zealously served the Lord God Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you, torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. Then the Lord told him, go back the same way you came and travel to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive there, anoint Hazael to be king of Aram. Then anoint Jehu, grandson of Nimshi, to be king of Israel. And anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, from the town of Abel Meholah, to replace you as my prophet. Anyone who escapes from Hazael will be killed by Jehu, and those who escape Jehu will be killed by Elisha. Yet I will preserve 7,000 others in Israel who have never bowed before Baal or kissed him. Just 7,000? Dang. I mean, the last census we took, they were in the 600,000 territory. 800,000 territory, and now he's talking about just 7,000. I know this doesn't usually include women and children, so there's some wiggle room there, but dang. And he's doing this with wars. He's lifting up these three people who's going to be adversaries of each other in different regions, and that's why that area knows so much war in its history. Okay. The call of Elijah. So Elijah went and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, plowing a field. He was working. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elijah was plowing with 12 teams. Elijah went over to him and threw his cloak across his shoulders and then walked away. Elijah left the oxen standing there, ran after Elijah, and said to him, "First let me go and kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I will go with you." Elijah replied, "Go back, but think about what I have done to you." So Elijah returned to his oxen and So Elisha returned to his oxen and slaughtered them. He used the wood from the plow to build a fire to roast their flesh. He passed around the meat to the townspeople, and he ate, and they all ate. Then he went with Elijah as his assistant. Elisha is to be raised as the prophet to replace Elijah. Okay, so go back, but think about what? Psalm 99. The Lord is king. Let the nations tremble. He sits on his throne between cherubim. Let the whole earth quake. The Lord sits in majesty in Jerusalem, exalted above all the nations. Let them praise your great and awesome name. Your name is holy. Mighty King, lover of justice, you have established fairness. You have acted with justice and righteousness throughout Israel. Exalt the Lord our God. Bow low before his feet, for he is holy. Moses and Aaron were among his priests. Samuel also called on his name. They cried to the Lord for help, and he answered them. He spoke to Israel from a pillar of cloud, and they followed the laws and decrees he gave them. O Lord our God, you answered them. You were a forgiving God to them, but you punished them when they went wrong. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at his holy mountain in Jerusalem, for the Lord our God is holy. And that brings us to the ends. Alright. Yay. What was the first chapter? First Kings? Whoa. That was First Kings 17. Loyalty. It's wild. Okay. Yay! The day is done. And tomorrow we can celebrate a new... Man. Tomorrow's 100, man. Should I wrap it up in prayer? Is there a prayer? Do I have a prayer? I don't know. Father God, thank you for finding me when I was being stubborn. Thank you for bringing me back and showing me mercy and showing me the goodness of your word and your faithfulness. Thank you for showing me love and helping me survive those years and continue to survive these years of struggle and turmoil, straight turmoil. You have been by my side because you're an everlasting, loving King. Forgiving and generous, you show me grace I don't deserve, and I can thank you. I can thank you 1,000 times over, and it wouldn't be enough. So, Father, as you continue to watch over me, as you continue to watch over the people listening and watching, I hope that you move, I pray, that they make space for you and your spirit to fill them so that they may see and hear and know you more intimately. And there is a clearing out that happens for the spirit to take hold, to take place, to take more space. There's a clearing out that has to happen. And during that process, you are gentle and you are loving, but it is mournful. And it is rough. Thank you for seeing us through. Thank you for giving us the patience. Thank you for loving us and providing for us and shielding us from our own disasters. Thank you. In the name of Christ, I pray. Amen. That's it. Goodbye.